Hey, congratulations, everyone. You've made it to April 27th, 2023. If you've been hanging in there until this day, well done, everybody. We finally made it, that very important day, which around the Common Good podcast verse, we call that Thursday with Astrophysicist Paul Wallace. So, hey, Paul.
Hi.
Hey, Paul, starting with the skies and the weather, it's beautiful outside here in Minneapolis. It's going to be 67 degrees today, a little overcast, but you can be safe outside without fear of UV radiation. Just a lovely day.
Yeah.
How are things there outside of Atlanta?
Dark and kind of misty, kind of, it's not really raining, but it's like non-committal, it's just kind of misty and dark and a little cool. It was actually a little cool. We had a high of 60 yesterday, which is unusual for down here.
Sorry for your loss.
And today today the high is like 65 or something, which is fine with me, because I know the hellish heat is coming. It's coming. Right. It's absolutely coming, and it's just another cool day. I'll take it. It's pleasant. It's probably how you feel on a warm day in early September or something.
That's right.
It's I'll take one more day because I know the freeze is coming.
The hellscape is on its way. The promise will be fulfilled. There's not a lot of promises that are always fulfilled. The weather promise does seem to be one.
In August, everything will be brown, in August, so I'm happy.
Dan, maybe you have the same thing there in the smaller lakes in Michigan, obviously not Lake Michigan, but in the smaller lakes here in Minneapolis. They were just frozen 2 weeks ago, to the point you could walk on them, like inches thick.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're not, because we had a little heat wave of 87 days. But between the time they're frozen and swimming in them is like 6 weeks.
Right.
It's frozen solid, so cold, 32 degrees. And then it's like warm enough to swim in. Just the change is just spectacular.
But is it still like when you jump in, is it still like, oh, that's cold?
Yeah.
Or
for my kids, the time period between is even shorter. As soon as there's not ice, they're jumping in. Somehow immune to the cold. I don't know.
I don't understand that.
Well, we like to talk about all the important things, including human interactions, as we did, all week long here, how we socially organize ourselves, what's our story of politics, faith, the common good, that kind of stuff. We do that all the time. And every other week on Thursdays, we also get to talk about the ultimate truth in things. Paul, it's interesting in the world of science, social sciences, all the ologies, right? Biology, theology, chemistology. Hey, how come the chemists don't get an ology in there, by the way? Chemistology.
Physicists don't either. Hey, the
physiology.
The astrologers get it. The astrologers get it, but not the astronomers.
How's that happen? How do the astrologers come sliding in? Well, they knew it was coming. Probably they planned ahead, didn't they?
I think it's because astrology came before, and they got the knowledge, ology piece. So
maybe in the time when we were naming things with their logics.
Yeah, they had naming rights because they showed up first.
Boy, there's a story that doesn't hold up in America, does it? Those that were there first get to be in charge. Nope. Just take it if we want. It's been the attitude of this nation's history. But Paul, when people talk about the ultimate truth of things, nothing seems sort of more ultimate truth than the very nature of the universe itself, for which we have some new tools and ways in the last, lifetime or so to understand. Really quite remarkable. One of them, this big news story from the skies that we saw today, which is the headline of this, is that they think they're figuring out now what these quasars are. Mm-hmm. So if you wouldn't mind, remind those of us that either, finished school before they were teaching about quasars, which honest to God, I think that was the case for me. I don't remember. I feel like quasars, they started talking about them like science fiction-y stuff, not like in school when I was in school. Is that true? Quasars are a newish understanding, 60 years, more than that?
Yeah, maybe 60 or 70, something like that. Yeah, I'd say 60 or 70. I'd say mid-century, mid 20th century, something like that. The word quasar, it's funny. The first thing I think of when I think of quasar is the old TV I had when I was a kid. It was
Totally.
a quasar. It was a quasar TV.
Quasar
like
color.
Four channels, whatever.
Yeah. But honestly, a very pleasure producing tactile knob on those TVs. When you would turn the TV channel,
satisfying soft click you'd get.
Oh man, truly, don't you remember it as a kid?
Oh yeah,
and your parents would be like, "Don't change the channel," and you're just like, "Oh, I don't know. I just want to move it from the 4 to the 5." And we had 4, 5, 9, and I think channel 11. What did it go up to? I don't know. But yeah, we'd move that little dial. Man, that was just so. Because as a kid, pushing buttons and turning knobs.
Yeah, and little numbers would click by. We had like 2, 5, 8, 11, 17, maybe 36. So that was it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Hey, why those numbers? And we can get to this on another day, but what do you know? Are those frequencies? Like, why does everybody have that same thing?
I don't know. All I know is that ABC was 2, CBS was 5, NBC was 11, Superstation, TBS, which we had in Atlanta when I was like 5, was 17. Public TV was 8.
Was TBS, Turner Broadcasting Systems, was that basically a local Ted Turner channel?
Yeah, it started out as a local Turner channel, and we had it before it became the Superstation, and like they started broadcasting Braves games all across the country. We had it local. It was just a local station. Yeah.
Wow, but the local kids done good. Good for you.
And they played and they played MASH. God love them. Every afternoon between 4 and 5 o'clock, 2 episodes back to back. I was in like middle school and high school. I'd come home, perfect timing. Mom wasn't home. I could sit and watch MASH for 2 hours. Oh, that was so sweet.
Isn't that true, Dan? I don't know where you are on the age spectrum of MASH, but I did the same thing. Watched MASH as entertainment as a middle school kid.
I learned a lot.
Just absorbed some Vietnam trauma as a child.
yeah, but
Korean
it was placed in Korea,
right.
so it felt more safe. Yeah, it was clearly commentary on war. But look, as I've gone into, our history of war is really, really, polluting kids' minds with war, from the movie Jaws straight through MASH. We won't get into that again. But I think about a middle school kid now. Would anyone think the show MASH and an adult targeted comedy, which really wasn't even all that comedic,
right?
But
it was pretty dark.
So appealing to a middle school aged mind. It's really amazing, isn't it?
I think it was basically like Hawkeye and BJ's one-liners that drew you in, and I don't know, but it's all we had, man. We didn't. What else was there?
Did you have any other options between 4 and 5 o'clock? Or
no? Good point. But here's the thing: you weren't. But you came home excited to watch that one thing that was available. You didn't watch the thing on the other channels, whatever it was. Like, you weren't watching that. Something about MASH. And look, I mean, the number of times people, including yesterday, tell me I look like Alan Alda.
It's almost daily in the comments.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I think
they don't mean Alan Alda when he was Hawkeye. They mean Alan Alda now when he's been on recent shows as his health and countenance is fading. But
I think part of the appeal was that it was the kind of show that you could get like half the jokes, and the half you didn't get, you were like, ooh, what is, it was like a grown-up thing. It was appealing because it was like, oh, that's like, I mean, my mom never would have told me not to watch it. I don't think she was like, it was like, she thought it was a problem, but it was kind of appealing because you got the sense that there was like really serious grown-up themes going on that you were trying to catch a whiff of,
I mean, there was war. There was obviously life and death issues going on. There's Hot Lips Houlihan. There was a guy trying to get out of the military by cross-dressing, right? I mean, gender and transgender related issues. Yeah. Like, it was a sophisticated show with occasional sarcasm, as Peggy says, and one-liners. But you watch MASH now and you're like, pretty slow burn on that humor, right? I mean, it wasn't what's happening. It wasn't kid targeted television.
No.
Something genius, absolutely. But I guess that's the way I think about this Thursday podcast when we do it. This is sort of the mash of live stream podcasts.
I'm happy to be part of that. And to get to your original question, I think you did ask about 30 minutes ago. You asked a question
quasars.
About quasars. Yeah. So a quasar basically is it's a galaxy. First thing you got to know is it's a galaxy. It is, or to be more specific, it's the central core of a galaxy. If you see that picture right there, you can see that's a galaxy, but the central part of it is by far the brightest part of it. Now, if you take that thing and move it away from us to a distance of 1 billion light years or 2 billion light years or 3 billion light years, all you can see is the core.
Okay.
And so it looks like a star.
Okay.
So that's why they're called quasars, because quasar is a mashup of quasi-stellar object, because it looks like a star from on a field, on an image of the sky. It looks like a star until you take its light and break it up into a spectrum, and then it looks nothing like a star spectrum.
Wow.
And so what it is it's a what we call active galaxy, and it's super duper duper far away, which means, as we know on this podcast, that means that we're seeing it as it was super duper duper long ago.
Yeah. Yes, that's a truth we just take to be true. Yeah, we don't question it because it's mind bending. Paul, hang on a minute. Is the word quasar an acronym? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's kind of a mashup. It's because quasi stellar object is where the word quasar came from.
Huh.
QSO, quasi stellar object, but they started. I think they just at some point somebody, I don't know who it was or when, took that phrase quasi stellar object. Again, it's called that because it looks like a star until you look at it really closely.
Okay, yeah. So for the insiders, the astronomers and astrologists, they know how to pay attention to these things and notice it. But isn't it galaxies that merge together or crash together? Isn't that
yes?
What this article is saying? They think they now know quasars were galaxies colliding into each other. That's what blew my mind about this story.
Yes.
How in the world, Paul, does a galaxy run into another galaxy? I mean, I watch some car accidents and think, how on earth did those two things collide right there? What was going on? Like, how'd that car jump the curb and end up, in that person's living room? How is it that, so like truly based on the size of space and a friggin' galaxy, how is one galaxy colliding into another? I thought the space was expanding.
It is.
Things are moving away. How are they running into each other? And even without the expanding universe, why are galaxies moving around? I mean, how crowded is it out there that a galaxy could collide into another galaxy?
Well, and on the biggest possible scale, it's not crowded at all. But remember that galaxies come in clusters and super clusters. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're part of a group called the local group. And the local group is part of something called the local supercluster. So now use the word local here a little bit loosely, 50 million light years across, something like that. But so that's the first thing to remember is that the average distance between all galaxies everywhere is huge, but they do come in clusters where the average distance is far less.
Who does the naming of these things? Because sometimes things in space get great names. The Milky Way, fantastic, right? Just sounds terrific.
Uranus, right?
Uranus Nebula, and then someone decides to describe the set of galaxies that we're a part of, and the best they can come up with is local galaxies.
The local group, yeah, that's
like
it.
Area Man,
yeah.
Local group Inc.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
You're right. Like the moons of Uranus are named after Shakespeare characters, but the little brown ovals on Jupiter's cloud tops are called brown ovals.
That's terrific. Okay, so we're part of the local group of galaxies.
Yeah. And it will shock you. It will shock you to hear, based on the question you just asked me, that our very own Milky Way galaxy is in a couple billion years going to be part of a collision with another galaxy. We are in a headlong, every second that ticks by, tick, 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 we grow 90 miles closer to the Andromeda galaxy.
So these galaxies are moving. What causes them to move? Because they're not moving just because space is expanding.
Right.
Is that the right phrase? They're not just moving away. I mean, things are getting further apart. This is why I feel like there's two truths about the universe that seem odd to me. One is this expanding verse, and things are moving away from each other. That's why light is further away with this whole theory that we have. You're seeing things as they are.
Yes.
Things years ago. But then galaxies run into each other. So they're both, things are moving away from each other, and some galaxies are moving toward each other. Is that because we're in the same, quote, local group?
Yes. And because the gravity of the Milky Way affects Andromeda, and the gravity of Andromeda affects us. We're close enough to where that gravitational attraction can overcome the expansion of space. So think of
the gravity of the gravity of the galaxies is what's attracting them to each other.
Right. But a galaxy so Andromeda is 2 million light years away right now. A little bit over that. 2 million light years away, which is big, yeah. But if you think of the Milky Way as like a dinner plate, about the size of a dinner plate, Andromeda is another dinner plate about 20 feet away.
Okay.
So we're really close to each other. And galaxies that are much further than that, the gravity falls off fairly quickly with distance. So gravity is not enough to make a difference for galaxies much more distant than that. Also, Andromeda is huge, and so is the Milky Way. So they're really affecting each other.
It seems like it's a big deal for whatever the scientists are now describing, that this headline would be so bold as to say solving the mysteries of the most powerful objects in the universe. That being quasars, is that what they're saying? Quasars are the most powerful objects in the universe.
The amount of energy they put out per second is unparalleled, essentially, compared to any other object in space. Enormous amounts of energy.
Is there any meaning of that application for anything we do, or are these more descriptions of understanding about what's happening? Like, are quasars
we're just trying to understand reality? I mean, useful. That's a strong word. I don't know if useful, is a good word for it. Our own Milky Way was could have once have been a quasar. I mean, we're looking at things that happened earlier in the universe's history. We're looking at the building up of galaxies.
Okay.
The evolution of galaxies, the early stages of galaxy building. Mm-hmm. So it's possible that our own Milky Way was, a quasar. Somebody else is seeing us as a quasar, perhaps. Somebody 3 billion light years away is looking at the Milky Way and seeing that, a quasar right now.
Huh.
No, it would have been longer than that, more than 3 billion, but you get the idea.
Uh-huh.
No, I don't. I actually don't. I really wish.
The point is somebody looking at the Milky Way from 4, 5, 6, 10 billion light years from here, is not seeing the Milky Way as it is now, but as the Milky Way was 4, 5, 10 billion years ago.
And it was a quasar then?
Could have been. I don't know that it was. I have no reason to suspect that it was, but I'm just trying to give you the perspective here.
It can go from quasar to non-quasar. I mean, like it can.
Oh yeah. Oh. Because the fact that we see them all so far away and none of them close by tells us that this is an earlier stage in galaxy development, galaxy evolution.
There you go. That's helpful. Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe a lot of these realities we see used to be in this more compressed.
Yeah. Maybe I didn't mention that, but there are no quasars next door. They're all super distant. In the billions, maybe in the high hundreds of millions, but roughly
Incredible.
billion light years and further away.
Billions and billions. All right. So on closer to home, tomorrow, I guess we get to watch people leave the International Space Station and walk outside. How does this strike you as an astrophysicist? What's your?
I would love to do that. I think the historic nature of this is that one of the spacewalkers will be Arab. So I think it's a first for, I can't remember the fellow's name who's doing it, but he's from United Arab Emirates, and so he's going to be the first Arab to walk in space. I think they're going to be replacing some solar panels or something like that, upgrading the solar panels on the space station.
It still feels like that space station is just one of the great human accomplishments that we just don't regularly recognize. Like we always make a big deal out of astronauts and people flying and landing on the moon and all this.
Yeah.
But man, people are, I can't remember how high up the space station actually is, but the space station is up there. People are living on it for long periods of time and going outside in suits.
In zero gravity, for months.
In zero gravity. Like we've just decided when did we first launch the space station? Was this in the 90s?
God, yeah, maybe so. It's been a long time.
So much so this is like, oh yeah, of course there's people living on the space station. I often use that as a comparison of things. Like literally we can have people living on the space station, but I can't figure out how to get Wi-Fi in my basement. Like it's just, how is that a thing? That just reminding ourselves of the human endeavor and accomplishment of this space station business. Will you be watching this tomorrow as a person who's a professor?
No, I wasn't planning to.
Spacewalk.
So, but I know a spacewalk would be boy. Can you imagine? I
can't imagine. Just do people freak out when they get out there and there's nothing between them and falling to the earth?
I think you have to have this to be an astronaut. I think you got to have this kind of ability to focus and
sure.
You're out there with a job to do, right? How could you possibly focus on replacing the solar panels when the Earth is down there?
Right.
Like, oh look, there's Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
I mean, like, how could you not just stare at it?
Hey, Mom, I can see our house from here. Yeah.
Yeah, and just wonder at it. I would have a hard time focusing on anything but looking down at the Earth. And also the view of the sky is probably pretty spectacular up there too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're looking at the Earth. It would just blow your mind. And then, so these people are obviously accomplished to the highest level of degree, whatever it takes to be an astronaut, which I'm assuming is math and is deep science. And then they also just have to go out and be a repairman, right? Like literally, like then you're the guy climbing on the roof, putting the, drilling in a solar panel with I mean, they have a wrench or something, I'm guessing, right? Like it's not, at some point it's not theoretical thoughts that you're having or data that you're programming. It's a thing.
It's like I need my socket wrench kind of thinking.
Yeah, you got a work belt on.
You thought of astronauts as most of them were test pilots, and there's this space cowboy vibe that astronauts have, but a lot of it is really mundane. Like they have just tons of lists of procedures. You go step by step by step.
Yeah. It's super regulated. Yeah, super scheduled. Yeah, absolutely. That is a funny a contrast. Yeah, and the idea of the astronaut as the the cowboy out on the final frontier, and but what they're actually doing all the time, is like, where's the socket wrench?
Right.
Yeah, totally. I'm now trying to look up on the internet how far away is the space station? The
It's
space
only
station.
a couple hundred miles.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
But
you can
not that.
see it at night most nights.
Yeah, if
There's
you
a
know
little,
where if you know where and when to look,
yeah, it's kind of
that's
fun.
exactly right.
Yeah, it just looks like a satellite or whatever, or is
Yeah,
it
a little
more
dot of light traveling across the sky.
1,200 miles, low Earth
12
orbit. Low
1,200
Earth
miles?
orbit. Yeah.
But hey, it turns out it's still difficult to do things in space, and the Japanese found this out. They
Yeah,
tried to
it's too bad.
land an unmanned craft on the moon, and it looks like it crashed and failed. They lost
Yep.
communication as it was
I
landing.
I hate it for him because it was apparently it
Yeah.
was like seconds before it was to touch down.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Huh.
everybody was like on the literally on the edge of their seats waiting to hear the good news, and all of a sudden it just went dark.
Yeah, that's such a bummer.
Yeah.
But it does remind you, like, we went to the moon in the 60s
Yeah,
and
1968
early
or whatever.
70s with, like, the power. Like, our cell phones are more powerful
Way more
computers
powerful.
than what they
Yeah.
had then. And we're
Yeah.
still struggling to get back.
Yeah, it's
We've
not
got
easy.
all the modern technology, and we still can't land a thing safely
Yeah.
on the moon.
Well, the difference in this is that this was the Japanese have done a lot, of course, in space. Quite a lot. In fact, they have a big part of the space station was built by the Japan, and they're big players. But this was the first time a private company. It was a
Right.
private deal. Tried to land something on the moon. This is the first time a private company had tried to land something on any body other than Earth.
Hmm.
Oh,
So it was kind of a big deal. Apparently, this company has two more. I can't remember the iSpace. I think is it. iSpace has two more attempts basically in the pipeline.
Mm.
So hopefully they'll have better situation next time. Better luck next time.
Yeah.
do any ideas on what happened? Like why it?
Well,
Do
according
they
to the
feel
article
like they
there,
know?
it's a little bit disappointing to read because based on that article, the video that is linked here, the suspicion right now, nobody's quite sure, but the suspicion is that it ran out of fuel
Oh,
Oh, no.
because it apparently started going quite fast, which maybe would happen if it got light enough. As it got lighter, it's going to go take less thrust to make it move fast. I don't know, but anyway, that's their suspicion is that it I don't know how high above the surface it was, but basically the last so many meters or whatever, it just
wow.
fell.
Well, if I remember right, that's also what happened with there was some of the big worry about when people landed on the moon the first time, right? They were like, we think we could run out of fuel here, and
God,
like they really cut this close, right? They're like,
Yeah.
gas gauge says I have 42 miles left. We can make it 46. I don't know why
yeah,
that seems
yeah,
curious to me
yeah.
that you
Boy,
wouldn't
talk
have
about a nightmare.
extra
That's
fuel.
literally a nightmare. Like to be stuck on the moon and not unable to get back off.
Yep.
Good point.
I mean,
Good point.
what a hellish thought.
Hey, and Twitter exploder Elon Musk, his company also blew up a rocket trying
Yeah,
to take it off last week. Their
Twitter
big one.
exploder.
Yeah, did any of you watch the launch?
No.
No. Did you
So,
see it?
yeah, I watched it. It was really fun. What was fascinating, though, it's a shot from, the launch pad area. You see it taking off. You also see a shot of, like, mission control, all the SpaceX employees.
Uh-huh.
And so you're watching this. They cheer. It takes off. It's looking good. And then, as you know, it explodes. And when I see a rocket explode, the typical reaction would be like, oh no. SpaceX erupts in applause. Everyone's cheering like they just did something really good. And then they spun it after the fact. Maybe you saw some of this as like a great success because even when you fail, you learn a lesson. And I'm like, yeah, but your rocket still blew up. Like, that's still not great.
It's not what you were trying to do. Yeah,
No.
I don't understand. I don't understand why. Sure, you learned something, but you didn't confirm the things you thought you knew. Obviously,
Right. You've
you
got more
learned
to
that you were
learn.
wrong on something.
I
Is that
am
not right,
not.
Paul?
I am not a fan of Elon Musk. Let me just preface this comment with that. So don't get the wrong idea. But I can easily see a situation. I mean, if Mission Control erupted in applause when it exploded, I mean, I don't think my suspicion is that getting it off the launch pad really was a success. And that was all that they really hoped, that was their goal. That was their mission goal, was to get it off the launch pad, well up, away from, over the ocean, that kind of thing.
What they called this is a quote, was rapid unscheduled disassembly.
Yeah, that's what I told my mom. That's what I told my parents when I wrecked their car. I was like,
oh. Just had a little rapid unscheduled disassembly.
which also could be a description of Twitter's last year and a half, right?
Boy,
this whole guy is just a disassembler.
Disaster.
I'll just say, for like popular understanding of science, and I want people to care about it. I think it's really cool. I think rockets are freaking awesome. But the idea that we're still at a stage in which we're blowing things up like a bunch of kids, and leading up to the 4th of July, just cheering because they like big bangs and booms, and things are blowing up, and parts of the stuff's falling in the ocean, or Japanese landing crafts are now cluttering, are smattered around the moon. I don't know. This just all gives off a really bad vibe in a world in which I think people want there to be a little bit more care and concern for just leaving crap around. I don't know. Is that, has anybody been sort of generally bothered by just blowing up huge rockets in the sky and falling on the ocean and starting small little fires in public parks, which apparently also happen? I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm all for it. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do it, but shouldn't we figure this out and not be like, hey, you know what'll likely happen, but it'd be a good thing, is if this thing gets, a few thousand feet in the air and then blows up, that's still a win. I just feel like, I don't know, maybe that seems reckless. Like, what other industry gets to do that?
Well, and what's interesting is, in this case, they rushed the launch. They were supposed to wait for this new launch pad. They were going to have steel that was cooled by water, and that was supposed to be a better launch pad. They didn't wait for that. And the old style concrete launch pad couldn't stand the heat or pressure, cracked and exploded and launched just huge chunks miles away. And so they ruined their launch pad. It is unusable.
They completely obliterated it.
Yeah.
Well,
they disassembled it.
Doug, you mentioned a minute ago what other industry gets to do this, and my hunch is that probably a lot of them, but they don't have they're not having it televised.
Okay.
They're not having it on the live streamed.
I don't know. I mean, I spend time out there sorting the plastic that I'm putting into the cans for the garbage people to pick up, because it's my duty.
Yeah.
These guys are blowing up rockets that are then spewing stuff. I mean, how much fuel is just unleashed? What is the ecological impact of any of this? Do you know?
I don't know.
I don't know, but I can't imagine it's close to zero. I can't imagine it's zero plus one.
Surrounding communities are not happy about this and tried to prevent SpaceX from putting in some of these new launch pads and stuff like that. But they are I love the ambition. This is the biggest rocket ever. I've got a thing on the screen that shows comparatively the size of the space shuttle launch vehicle and the Saturn V. This is bigger than the Saturn V, and the ship itself is just massive.
Also, it may be the most phallic of all 5 of those.
It totally
hypodermic needle.
Like, okay,
right
Elon, we get you're overcompensating, but
yeah, right. You've got the biggest rocket, Elon. Way to go. Well, and this is all I mean, this is part of the send something up in the sky so it can come back project, right?
Yeah.
This is the reusable that
right.
I guess it shows how hard this is, because a success is still called
hard.
Blowing up 1,500 feet in the air or 3,000 feet in the air, whatever it is. Yeah, look, we're going to keep doing rockets. I'm glad we're back to rocket business. And that'd be really great. But the idea that SpaceX blows that when things blow up, it's considered cheerable success, and they came out immediately. I mean, they had a press release ready to go on why this is a plan, a positive part of their work and part of their plan.
It felt a little cultish, like can do no wrong. Like that's okay to like be bummed out that your $1 million rocket exploded.
I see what you're saying, Dan. Yeah, I get that. I get that.
Yeah. No one says a bad thing about the about the project.
Right.
Or dear leader.
Yeah, dear leader. But check out this image on the screen just to get a scale of the size of these rockets. Wow. This is an image of them putting the rocket together, and there's people in between, and this thing just dwarfs the people. No. This is like a skyscraper that we shoot into space.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a skyscraper.
Right. And you see these, maybe you've seen in other images, these little directional fins. They're like the wind can go through them, but they can turn and direct the ship. I had no concept for how large these are. These are like the size of a huge SUV or something. These I thought were little fins.
I think almost like a small bus or something.
Yeah. How many camels would that be then? Is this like 4 camels?
I wish they would have told us right away how many camels this was.
Yeah.
So we had some sort of concept.
Yeah, that's deep cut for people that listen regularly to the podcast. This makes me even more freaked out about this stuff blowing up and just spewing out into the ocean and falling. Right? Is that how big it is? It's simply stunning. Hey, Peggy has a question in the chat, Paul.
Yeah.
What is it that keeps the space station up there 1,200 miles away?
A good question. Yeah.
Is it gonna fall back
eventually? If it didn't have any sort of thrusters to keep it up, it would, but it would be pretty slow. There's still some air up there, but not very much. Probably about 0, that high. But
it has fuel. It has the space station's.
It's got it doesn't. The fuel does not keep it moving forward in its orbit.
Okay.
The fuel, if it has fuel and it needs to boost itself, it would boost itself higher. It wouldn't boost itself forward.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What keeps it from put it this way, it is falling, just like the moon is always falling. Okay. It's in free fall. It's in what we physicists call free fall, but it's moving around the Earth fast enough that the Earth curves out from under it just at the right rate. So it's falling, but it's also moving forward. But as it falls, the Earth curves out from underneath it, so it always maintains the same height because it's just really it's forward. It's motion around the Earth that keeps it from hitting the Earth.
So it's falling.
I would love to draw you a picture, but basically
it's falling, but not getting closer to the Earth.
Right,
not falling in that.
Imagine I was on top of a mountain. I'm hanging on top of a mountain, and I throw a rock forward. Imagine
looking down on creation.
Right, yeah. So the rock's going to go forward and then drop. Right, but if I throw it faster, it'll go further before it drops.
Okay.
If I throw it even faster, it's gonna take longer to hit the ground because the Earth is curving down in the same direction that it's falling, but the Earth is curving down away from it.
Okay.
But if I throw it at the right speed, I can throw the rock and then wait about 90 minutes and it'll come back behind my head and pass me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? That's what the space station is doing. That's what the moon is doing.
So what will eventually cause it to not keep moving faster then? If the boosters are not pushing it forward, what is pushing it forward that keeps
it's what we call inertia. Its own.
Okay.
An object in motion tends to stay in motion. So it's in motion around the Earth. It'll tend to keep going that way until something slows it down or speeds it up.
And what's going to slow it down ultimately?
Drag with whatever remnants of atmospheres up there.
Here we go. It's like a drag reading. This is going to be a library drag story. Oh, different one. So
different kind of drag, I'm afraid.
Yeah, different drag. So the drag is going to hold the ultimate. That like there's just enough air and wind or air and
slow it down.
The end. What would happen if we let it go was it would eventually be dragged down by the air friction, and it would spiral into the Earth and crash.
Disassemble.
But it rapid, unscheduled disassemble, whatever it's called. But if we keep it boosted, if we keep it at the right,
you give it a nudge upward every so often.
Upward, it'll maintain its orbit.
Do they fly things up to the space station to fuel it? Are there fueling?
I don't know.
That's
I don't know the answer to that. My suspicion is that they must, because they do need, maybe their thrusters or whatever they use are powered by the solar panels. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they resupply all that stuff when they swap out crew.
Because you need to actually have some sort of physical thrust.
Right.
You have to be ejecting something to keep it boosted.
Mm-hmm. And again, we couldn't apparently catch the spy balloon, but we can pull this off. We can shoot. You can refuel a space station up in the middle of the sky. Unbelievable. Well, Paul, thank you again for mind opening. And I see Kimberly says, "Hey, you guys started early today." On Thursdays, Kimberly, if you're working out the complex formula of when is the Common Good podcast live, on Thursdays, at least every other Thursday when it's Astrophysicist Paul Wallace Day, it's 8 a.m. Central Time. And of course, you all know that that's 7 Mountain Time, which should be the basis of all being confused about what time zone we're in. 9 a.m. if you're in the Eastern time zone. And if you're in Puerto Rico, I don't know what time it is now. The daylight savings time is over. So
but
don't know how to do
if
that.
You're
but
on the space station.
What time do they set?
Is it Houston? Is it Florida?
They use something called universal time. They might be. It's basically Greenwich time. It's basically Greenwich time. I don't know if they use that, but they've got their own time synced up with Houston or whoever.
And they do have the internet up there. This is true. They have internet connectivity on the space station. Maybe if we put a request out, we could get a conversation with some of the space station people, and they could give us a little tour.
That would
be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure they're busy, but they might have some time. And maybe nobody asked. Maybe these people are just up there floating around like, boy, I just feel like people don't even think about us anymore. Like unless we're out, doing something fancy, fixing a solar panel. Nobody ever remembers us.
That would be almost as cool as doing a live podcast from a total solar eclipse somewhere.
Which, by the way, we are doing on, what was the date? April 30th. April 8th, 2024.
Yep. Mark your calendars.
Mark your calendars and find your way somewhere between West Texas and Indiana, and we will be there pointing cameras at the sky. All right. Anybody else? Everything for us?
I'm good.
I was going to read the comments. All right, thanks Peggy and Kimberly and Mark, and there was somebody else in there
Brett.
that I missed. Brett, yeah, welcome Brett. Haven't seen you before in the chat. Nice to see you. If anybody is interested in chatting with us when we do it live, YouTube is our favorite place, but of course you can also do it on Facebook and places where you see this. But if you're not yet on our YouTube channel, that's the place that helps us and what we do the most. If you watch and like and share and subscribe and that stuff over there, that's most helpful. Paul, you got anything more for us?
I don't think so.
Are the students? By the way, Paul is also a professor. Are the students in finals now? Is this it? Are they?
Yeah, they're basically wrapping up. This is the last week of classes.
Does a professor like you feel a lot of like your own pressure that you want to have done well in educating these students?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I really do. And this is it's a tough time of year. Just because everybody's so just want to stick a fork in it, you know. And
enough's enough. Yeah.
It's like, you know, yeah, people just get cranky, you know. This is people.
Everyone's kind of done. Yeah.
Everybody was done about a month ago.
Really?
You know? Oh yeah. I mean, no, it's not like people are out there like, you know, it's not like a brawls on the quad or anything.
Huh.
But yeah, everybody's just, you know, stressed out. Students are, you know, tired of it. Frankly, we're a little tired. But you know, the funny thing is like within a week of wrapping it up and putting the grades in, I'll be like, boy, I can't wait till next semester.
Yeah. I feel like college, when I went to college, I feel like it went through May, almost to June. Am I just making that up?
No, that's right. A lot of colleges did that. Were you on a quarter system or were you on?
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a lot of years ago, and I didn't really remember. It just felt like it was like all May. And I was with another friend who's a professor last night. He's like, "Yeah, no, this is finals week, and so the students are done tomorrow."
No, I think I graduated in early June.
What?
I think I graduated in early June, and I know my dad graduated in early June also.
Yeah, that's when graduations and stuff were
yeah.
in part.
I also think there's a little bit of a geographic difference. I think that the schools in the South tend to have a different schedule, maybe because we were agrarian longer. I don't know exactly why that is, but
well, yeah. So we know you have a class to teach soon, so
yeah,
I do.
We'll better let you go.
All right.
Okay. Well, thanks, Paul. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.
Sure thing.
Bye.
Bye.